this law and of course BAA 86. But I believe that the members of parliament of the BTA, the Bangsamoro Transition Authority, was able compliant with the constitutional issues addressed by the Supreme Court ruling.
Meaning to say, Mr. President, we are assuming that nobody will raise the issue of constitutionality with BAA 86, and that if somebody does it, the Supreme Court will simply adjudge it constitutional. That these are our presumptions.
That is our prayer, Mr. President, yes.
And you share that optimism, Mr. Majority Leader, Mr. President.
Yes, sir, Mr. President.
Good luck.
Ultimately, what we want is more peace, Mr. President. Ang worry ko lang is, there are people who want to throw a monkey wrench, Mr. President, with the permission, of course, of Senator Marcoleta. I just want to expound. There are people who want to throw a monkey wrench in the peace process in Mindanao. The best way to destroy the peace process in Mindanao is to subvert their mandate by not allowing elections. So kung palagi tayong postpone, magkakagera talaga muli sa amin po, sa Mindanao, particularly sa Bangsamoro region. Kaya we are hoping that the Supreme Court this time will render this new Bangsamoro Autonomy Act of 86 as constitutional, Mr. President.
Let's move to the electoral framework, Mr. President. We understand that the BTA also passed BAA 88 on January 28, 2026, which amended BAA 35 or the Bangsamoro Electoral Code, which was enacted in March 2023. Given that the BTA had nearly 3 years since the passage of Electoral Code, Mr. President, may I respectfully seek clarification on the following. First, what are the key amendments introduced by BAA 88 and why are these changes necessary at this stage of the electoral timeline?
I believe when it comes, one major reform, Mr. President, is the manner of voting for sectoral representatives, where representatives from the women, youth settler communities, ulama, and traditional leader sectors will now be elected through direct voting by the people, while the non-Moro indigenous peoples will continue to be chosen through an assembly-based process kasi meron po silang FPIC, which is the Free Prior Informed Consent. Traditional po yan sa kanila. So registered parliamentary sectoral organizations will also be allowed to field their nominees or candidates whose names will appear on the ballot. Another important change is the reduction of the electoral threshold for regional parliamentary political parties from 4% to 2.5%, making it easier for smaller parties to gain representation. In addition, the membership requirement has been lowered from 10,000 to 5,000 members, with membership now required to be distributed across the majority of provinces, cities, and municipalities within BARM rather than across all provinces. Lastly, all parliamentary sectoral organizations, regional parliamentary political parties are required to undergo registration and accreditation, which mandates the Commission to issue implementing rules and conduct the process of registration and accreditation ahead of the filing of certificates of candidacy, manifestations of intent to participate, and similar submissions, Mr. President.
What circumstances or developments prompted these amendments to be made only very recently, considering that they directly affect COMELEC's preparations, particularly in the accreditation of political parties
Yes.
and even sectoral organizations?
Yeah. Actually, I asked, because umalma din yung ibang sectors, bakit nawala yung original plan, which is also chosen through assembly-based process. The problem with the assembly-based process, Mr. President, is para magtatawag ka ng tao, tapos magkakaroon ng election dun sa assembly. We felt that that was more unconstitutional, Mr. President, because the best way to actually carry the voice of a sector is through regular type of elections where the women's sector is elected by all members of the BARM areas, all provinces, all districts that will be able to participate. Ang mangyayari kasi dyan, baka may isang assembly lang po sa Cotabato at sasabihin nila, itong aming member sa kababaihan, so women, paano naman kung nagkaroon din ng assembly dun sa Tawi-Tawi, nagkaroon din sa Basilan, sino pipiliin ng BTA or the Bangsamoro Parliament na talagang magdadala ng boses ng kababaihan? So the best way to do it is really through an electoral process where they get to choose. So yung hindi lang pong ginawa ng ganyan is to respect also their customs and traditions are the indigenous peoples, yung mga non-Moro IPs, kasi meron talaga silang assembly-based process. As a matter of fact, sa Bukidnon, kakatapos lang, although they're not from BARM, we just elected our IPMR that's the indigenous peoples member representative in the Sangguniang Panlalawigan. Tapos ang nangyari dyan ay may sarili silang proseso sa pagpili. Hindi po halalan, parang nagme-meeting po lahat ng mga IPs from the different towns at sila po ang nagde-declare sino yung magiging member of the provincial board. So ganun din ang mananatili sa non-Moro IPs. But for all the others, Mr. President, to avoid confusion and possibly conflict, the best way to do it is mahalal na po sila. They have to register na ako po, si so-and-so, representative ng youth sa COMELEC, at ilalagay na po yung pangalan po ng grupo nila doon at ihalal po sila sa kababaihan at sa iba't ibang sektor. On the issue naman po, is the reduction of the electoral threshold for the regional political parties from 4% to 2.5% is to allow more representation, Your Honor. Kasi ang nangyayari, iisa lang o dadalawa lang pong grupo ang makakuha ng 4% at makakuha ng 10,000 members distributed all around the provinces. Kawawa naman yung mas maliliit na grupo po, Your Honors. There's several smaller groups of our Bangsamoro brothers and sisters that want to also participate in the parliamentary elections but cannot do so because of the very prohibitive number of 10,000 members in each community or province or city plus a threshold of 4% total. So medyo malaki po kasi 4% total population of BARM is in the hundreds of thousands din, di ba? Malaki din yung 4%. So binabaan na lang po para mas inclusive po siya.
I'm only interested, Mr. President, on how optimistic you can be, considering that these changes were made very, very recently. But if these changes are really significant and they contribute to the orderly conduct of the elections in the BARM, I have no problems with that.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, I agree with you to that, sir.
Mr. President, a very urgent petition was filed before the Supreme Court asking the High Court to declare as unconstitutional the appointments of BTA's Chief Minister Abdul Rauf Makakwa and 5 other BTA members. The petitioners argued that Article 16, Section 2 of the Bangsamoro Organic Law states that the MILF shall lead the BTA in recognition of its role in the peace process in Mindanao without prejudice to the participation of the Moro National Liberation Front. It is argued that the Bangsamoro Parliament is composed of 80 members all over the region, but only 34 MILF members were appointed, and that the MILF endorsed members should be at least 41 instead of 34 for the legislative measures to prevail. Should the Supreme Court rule in favor of the petitioners and declare the appointments as unconstitutional, what will be its effect?
There will be an absence of authority. Kaya nga po, Mr. President, yung gusto ko po, personal opinion ko po is, kaya dapat talaga magkaroon ng halalan. Kasi kung right now we are operating on a temporary state.
Ako gusto ko rin po eh. Kasi matagal na talaga yan eh.
I totally agree.
Ang problema po, paano kung, halimbawa, kaya tanong ko, paano kung declare na naman na constitutional? Will it have the effect of, again, resetting
Hindi naman po,
the
sir.
election?
Hindi naman po, sir.
Sana
Ang
po,
mangyayari
di ba?
ang mangyayari kasi dyan, I believe that Malacanang would have to learn its lesson and will have to appoint 41 members of the MILF and more members of the MNLF. Their contention with me is that Chief Minister Makakwa is a member of the MILF. Although maybe another faction, kasi faction din po sila. There's a government faction, and there's of course the ideologue faction of Chairman Murad. So the only way to answer that, Your Honor, to be honest about it, and I think we all agree, let's take it to a vote and let the people decide once and for all. I think that would be the best, Mr. President.
But in the, I would say, remote possibility that the Supreme Court will hold it unconstitutional, will it affect BAA 86, Mr.
Hindi
President?
naman po, sir. Hindi naman po, sir.
You are
Hindi
sure,
naman.
Mr. President?
Yes, sir, Mr. President. Hindi naman po, sir. Kasi batas po siya. So it's a law it's a national law declaring the date already of the elections, which the COMELEC would be already prioritizing, at the same time also preparing for, including the registration of the new party list members and all the members of the different districts. I think it will not affect the election per se, because that's a different topic altogether. Ang mangyayari siguro dyan, maging null and void po yung position ni na Chief Minister Makakwa kung lumabas po na Supreme Court ruling tungkol dyan na unconstitutional yan, and they will have to appoint within the parameters of the BOL law, which basically is the 41 members coming from the MILF, and I think they'll just have to comply with that. But the elections, Mr. President, Senator Marcoleta, I don't think it will be hampered in any way on the date of the elections.
So from today until the second Monday of September 2026, we will have to keep our fingers crossed, Mr. President.
Yes, sir.
Thank
We
you,
are praying
Mr.
for that.
President.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Thank you.
To continue interpellation, the Senator Ping Lacson, the President Pro Tem, is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. At the outset, let me clarify that I am not objecting to the measure under consideration. Rather, this is a manifestation of concern, no? Particularly on a potential constitutional infirmity. I will cite Article 18 of the Constitution, transitory provision, no? And I will deal with that by way of citing Abbas Kida versus Senate of the Philippines, GR number 196271, October 18, 2011. Nireaffirm po ng Supreme Court yung constitutional mandate for synchronized national and local elections under the 1987 Constitution, recognizing synchronization as a core constitutional principle that shapes the structure of Filipino democratic governance, Mr. President.